we need to visit the nursery. I think we have just 40 minutes time left. We have an appointment there. Hello, audible? Yeah. So let's quickly go through a few small uh, bits. We'll just put together a few of them for the next 40 minutes. First thing, I think yesterday someone asked me about vitamin B12 deficiency and what can be done about that vitamin D deficiency, vitamin B12 deficiency. So, is there any other way rather than taking supplements? Is a frequently asked question, not just here but quite a lot. So, since the topic came up in the morning about scientific myths existing in the general public, where people believe something firmly, strongly, yet the truth of it is shaky. One of such scientific myths which exists today is that vitamin B12 is present only when you have non-vegetarian, it's the only sources are non-vegetarian sources. So this is a myth. So I'm directly telling you it's not true. Yes, we don't get it through plant sources, but we can produce it within our gut, sufficient quantity if we have a good bacterial flora in our gut. So there are a lot of good bacteria which we have a symbiotic relationship with in our body. Out of that, lactobacillus is one of them. That's not the only one, but a major colony is lactobacilli. So such good bacteria in our gut, when we maintain a good flora, they can produce enough amount of vitamin B12 which we require. So as I said, lot of people think that it is available only in animal sources, and yet though most of the population today is a non-vegetarian population, when we speak about the whole world, when we compare the numbers, most people are non-vegetarians, yet the vitamin B12 deficiency is prevalent all over. So if non-vegetarian sources were a good source of vitamin B12, then the deficiency should not have existed. So as we discussed, the capacity for us to absorb these vitamins has reduced. One of the reasons being plastic. Another reason being gluten, which is present in wheat, is also very similar, acting like plastic. It forms a layer in the intestine and prevents active absorption of nutrients. So in order to get a good level of vitamin B12 for ourselves, the first thing we need to do is maintain a good bacterial flora, and for this what would help is having fermented foods. One is curd, of course, buttermilk and curd, which we are all aware of. Other fermented foods like idli, dosa batter, we ferment it before we consume it. Another very important fermented food which we suggest is the ganji, which we were referring to, made from the millets. So soak the millet well. So I think all of you already realize the difference between cooking millets after soaking it well, which was today's lunch, and not soaking, in breaking breakfast without soaking it well. So the difference was already so evident. So I think it was a unfortunate event, yet it was an eye opener for everyone. We usually have the tendency, chalo, half an hour is enough or 1 hour is enough, but now you have seen the differences. So there is so much difference. It's a eye opener for all of us, and it's a warning also, I can say, that we need to soak it well. So first soak the millet well, and then boil it, cook it well, and then we suggest it to be kept in a mud pot. Mud pot, why? Because it has pores, and so there is good amount of aeration which will happen, which will help for the fermentation of good bacteria to happen more easily. Tie it with a cotton cloth and keep it as such for 6 hours to 8 hours, and then consume it. In that you will have good probiotic bacterial growth, and you will be improving the flora in the gut. So this is another method of getting good bacteria. So in that, many people make a mistake of mixing curd and then keeping it for 6 hours or 8 hours and then consuming it. But then if you add curd initially itself, you will have more of only lactobacillus, which will compete and not allow other good bacteria to grow. So you have to add, if you want to add curd to consume it, add it just before taking it and not before 6 hours or 8 hours which you are keeping.
Fermenting it directly,
No.
like what we do in a curd rice.
No, that will also make only lactobacilli grow. So we don't, as I said, everything is about variety here and diversity. So we need a diverse bacterial flora as well, not just lactobacilli. So it is best to add it in the end if you want to add it to consume it. Okay. So people having very severe disease, like probably who are in a state of dialysis, or people having cancer, for such patients we suggest them to be only on this ambli or ganji diet for at least 3 weeks, so that the intensity of the disease reduces very quickly. This is what we suggest. Others also we suggest at least weekly once have this kind of food in order to maintain a good bacterial flora. And also another important aspect to create the environment required for the bacteria to grow well in your intestine, we require the fibrous food which comes from the green leafy vegetables, which comes from eating diverse fruits, which comes from eating diverse vegetables. So when we do all this, we will be assured to have a good vitamin B12 level in our body. Next, to talk about vitamin D. So all of us know that the only source is from the sun. Those who are from now don't have a deficiency. If you are going to expose yourself to the early morning or evening sun, that will be enough. But for those who are already having a very deficient state of vitamin D, to boost it and bring it to normal levels sooner, we suggest mushrooms. So sun dried mushrooms. So mushroom has the same kind of capacity to trap the vitamin D, the sun's energy, and make it into vitamin D. And when we consume this mushroom, we will be getting vitamin D. It's a good source of it. So you have to sun dry the mushroom, not the fresh mushrooms. Sun dried mushroom will give you a vitamin D, act like a boost, so that you can bring your levels to normal, and then side by side you will be able to get your own vitamin D when you are exposing yourself to the sun. So this is a practice which is followed, as I said, in regions like Finland and Greenland, where the sun is there only actively for 3 months in a year. They follow this method of sun drying mushrooms in those 3 months and using it for the rest of the year. So we just have to borrow this idea which they are using from generations and follow it if we are in a deficient state.
Has got high amount of zinc content. Zinc is very high in some vegetables.
Yes. Okay.
For omega-3 and other things.
I think when we are eating diverse food, we don't have to think about each one separately. Many people say that you don't have all the essential amino acids in any one vegetarian source. Yes, not in one, but we are not sticking to one source, right? We are depending on so many diverse sources in order to get protein, so many diverse sources to get all the requirements. So I think as long as you're eating a good variety of substances and not sticking to just 3 or 4 dals, 3 or 4 vegetables, 3 or 4 fruits. See, today we had 2 fruits which we don't usually eat on a daily basis. So this kind of things is what I'm talking about. There are so much good in everything around us. So we need to be open to eating everything available as and when you get it. Seasonal fruit, make best use of it, eat it well. So that is how we will be able to maintain our health. Okay, next.
Why it is necessary to soak it in water?
The millets, I think I already explained that the fiber is present in the innermost of the millet as well and to externally. So it's present in concentric circles attached to the carbohydrate. So for the innermost fiber to soak, it needs to be soaked.
Suppose we do not soak it for a proper time.
Then the inner layers are not soaked and they don't cook properly. So when you eat it, you tend to have digestion problems, you tend to have problems of absorbing water inside your body. That is what will happen if you do.
Must to soak it.
Yes.
And then put it in the earthen.
No. That is only for people who have intense disease to get probiotics through the food as well. Otherwise, soaking is a must. And we suggest that process at least once a week for everyone in order to get a good intestinal flora.
After soaking, we can cook it.
Yes, soak it, cook it. After cooking, keep it for 6 to 8 hours if you want the good probiotics to reach your body.
After soaking, not drying?
Not drying, not necessary to dry. If to make flour, we suggest to soak, dry and then make the flour. Atta banane ke liye.
So how to use this dried mushrooms?
Sun-dried mushrooms. Soak it again for 2 to 3 hours and any curry you can put it in.
Just add.
Yes, just add it.
So how to prepare the ganji for this? Is there any formula? Is there ganji preparation?
Ganji preparation, 1:6 minimum water is required. You can adjust the consistency as per your liking. Minimum 1:6 water will be required for it to become ganji.
What about millet sprouts? Is it good to eat sprouts?
To sprout it, you will have to use the whole grain without removing the outer husk as well. So once you even remove the outermost layer, you will not get a sprout. So consuming it along with the outermost fiber as well is difficult. Very few people find it palatable. There are a few people who use the whole grain flour to make like ragi balls. They make millet flour balls from that. They make roti from that. They make dosa from that. But to develop a liking to that is much more difficult than even the regular millets, to use the whole grain. So without the whole grain, you will not get sprouts.
Have you eaten sprouted millet?
Yes, we have. When we soak it and then sprout it just to sow it in the ground. That time we have tasted.
Is it good also to eat it sprouted?
It is okay, but it is difficult to eat. Okay. Yeah. So another topic which I wanted to talk about was walking. So many people have a misconception. Yesterday we were saying that I have physical work, I do all the housework, I don't have a servant maid. That is what most ladies say when we ask them to go walking. I don't have a servant maid, I do all the housework, I don't need to do walking. Or there are men who say I work on the field, I'm into the civil side, I work on the field, I do not need walking. Or some people say I'm a sports person, I actively play sports, so I don't need to do walking. Many people say I do yoga, so I don't need to do walking. But this is a wrong way to think. The human body has been created to walk. So from the four-legged creatures, our structure is designed so that we are two-legged and the motion is to walk. So we usually ask the question when people say that yoga is sufficient. There is Mayurasana, there is Bakasana, there is Matsyasana. Today morning we did Matsyasana. There is Garudasana, there is Bakasana. We're trying to copy. There's even a Vrukshasana. We're copying a tree and doing an asana. We're copying a frog. We're copying all these things. But then what is the asana for human beings? If there has to be an asana for a human being, what is it? So the natural design of the human body was meant to walk. So the best exercise for the human body is to walk. So the next question comes, how much do we need to walk? So for that the answer would be that we have 4 to 6 liters of blood in our body on an average. So the small size, small structured people will have 4 liters and the hugely built people will have 6 liters of blood. So let's keep it as an average of 5 liters of blood. So to burn all the glucose present in 1 liter of blood, we need to walk for 15 minutes. So 5 liters of blood, if you want to spend all the glucose, you need to walk for 1 hour 15 minutes. So the ideal time to walk would be between 1 to 1.5 hours on a continuous way. So if you're walking half an hour in the morning, you're cleansing half of the blood, and then again in the evening another half. So the entire cleansing process does not happen if you're breaking your walking into half an hour plus half an hour. When you at a stretch walk for 1 to 1.5 hours, the entire body blood gets cleansed, and that time there is a potential which is created, like all the glucose is used, and then from the stores the body starts to bring in the fat and dissolve it and bring glucose, or the other stores to make it into glucose. There's a potential created and your body feels that, okay, I require glucose in my blood. I'm just talking about glucose as one substance, but it applies to many other substances which we require. The metabolites waste are released when we continuously walk for 1 hour to 1.5 hours on a regular basis. So another point is, many people think that you need to walk brisk walk. So brisk walking is good if you can continuously brisk walk for 1 to 1.5 hours. But if you are not able to do that, it is more important for you to walk for a long duration rather than the distance. So you might be covering more distance when you walk fast. It's not how many kilometers you walk which is important, but it is the duration which you walk which is the most important thing. And of course, you don't want to strain yourself and tire yourself. At the end of 1 to 1.5 hours, you need to feel fresh, you need to feel light in your body, and that happens only when you walk at your own pace. So whoever has their own normal pace, walk at that pace. Don't compete with the others in the park. I think most of us in the city are forced to walk in circles in the park. If we have a park, it's everyone going around and around several times. So it's not a competition. Just feel free, relaxed, and then walk. Another important thing which happens when you walk is your mind also gets relaxed. Someone was saying yesterday, I think, that they get all their best ideas when they are walking too. For the next day's planning happens when they are walking. So try to walk alone without any disturbance and talking with others. Usually what tends to happen is you go through the whole day's process and you analyze what has happened in that day. If you have some anger, you run through it and you try to deal with it. Some anxiety issues, you tend to deal with it. So when you deal with all these problems on a day-to-day basis, they never accumulate, and when they don't accumulate, it prevents it from becoming into a bigger problem. So walking is not just for the physical level, it is also for the mind. So try to get into this good habit from now. Okay. Another thing which, I spoke about sports persons also having to walk. So many people think that when I'm playing sports, I'm burning a lot of calories. So why do I need to walk? So it's not just about the calories. So what happens in a sports person's body is the adrenaline pumps in. So most sports are competitive. You have a competition that I need to win. I have to score. I have to do this. It's an achievement oriented thing. And when you have that kind of thing in your body, the adrenal hormone pumps in. So when the adrenal hormone pumps in, the whole metabolism in the body changes. There is more glucose rushing into the blood rather than using the glucose which is present in the blood. So because of this happening, even sports persons are prone to getting diabetes. We see that many of our sports stars are diabetic. We think, okay, they are active all the time, then how are they getting diabetes? This is the answer, because their adrenal gland keeps pumping in adrenaline into their body, and adrenaline is a hormone which employs different ways to increase the glucose in the blood. So if you are playing sports, I'm not saying don't play sports. If it's going to make you happy, yes, good, play sports. But don't stop walking because you're playing sports. The work of walking is different, and what sports will do to your body is different. So walking is the way in which every part of your body is exercised, but nothing is overstrained. It's not, no one part of your body is going to get overburdened, or any muscle getting overstrained is not going to happen. Okay, so this was a little about walking. So we also had to speak about kashayams. So first thing, how is kashayam made? Is a basic question everyone asks. So we advise not to mix substances while doing kashayam. The same concept how we say do not mix the millets. All of them are good, but do not mix them. On a similar line, we would say each leaf has its own good properties, medicinal properties. So do not mix them. Have it in its pure form on its own so that it does its complete work in your body. So how to make a kashayam would be collect fresh leaves. Fresh leaves are the best. Dried leaves, the percentage of effectivity reduces to half. So try to get the fresh leaf as far as possible. Wash it well. Boil for one person 150 to 200 ml of water. Bring it to a boil. Once it starts bubbling, add the leaf. Big leaves, 1 to 2 leaves is sufficient. If they are small leaves, then half your fistful of leaves. Add it into the water. Turn the flame to sim. Allow it to boil for 2 to 3 minutes. Turn it off. Cover it with a lid. Allow it to rest for 3 to 4 minutes. Filter it. Allow it to become a little cool. Don't take it at a boiling hot temperature. Cool it a bit. If required, you can add palm jaggery to it. There are some leaves which are bitter, some do not require. So you can add palm jaggery if required and consume it, preferably on empty stomach. At least half an hour gap before you consume your food so that all the absorption can take place properly. So what do kashayams do is, it gives a boost to your system. Many people are under the false assumption that it is sufficient to use only the kashayams and they forget about the base of the millets. So they continue to eat rice and wheat and take kashayams. First they feel very good. Initially they feel, okay, I am getting rid of all my problems. But this will help you, it will give you some time to correct your base food, all the basic things which you are doing. Unless you correct these, the action of this will be short-lived. It is only for that day it will give you some relief to your complaints. It will give a boost to your system. But if you are going to continue only kashayams and leave out the rest of the whole, see, as I said, it's a whole package. It's not one thing, it's not two things, it's everything together which is going to give you the health. So you cannot do one without the other. So please don't rely only on the kashayams. They are a short term, short lived effect. They are going to give you a boost, but you cannot depend only on that. So based on Ayurvedic literature, based on homeopathic remedies as well, based on common knowledge which has been passed on from generation to generation, we have a list of kashayams, what is good for what kind of diseases, which is available in the PDF form. And I think we will be visiting the nursery here as well to see what kind of medicinal plants are available. And the reason why kashayam is made in water only, some people have the habit of adding milk as well. So water soluble elements are usually not poisonous to you. Most poisons are fat soluble and not water soluble. So by chance, if we have a problem, I have made a mistake in identifying the plant, and by mistake we have taken something which is not very suitable for our system, the bad elements would not be to an extent to cause harm to you if you have taken it through the water form only, water soluble form only. So that is why many people directly take and eat the leaf. If you are sure about the plant, then it might be okay. But it is always best to take it in the form of kashayam. And Our body is also, as I said, most part of it is water. So the medicinal elements reach throughout your body better when it is dissolved in water. So this is the reason why we ask to make kashayam and not take the leaf directly. And this is the reason why we say do not mix everything and have it. Okay. So just the immunity series I will write down. This is a series of 7 kashayams which we suggest to improve the immunity in children and in adults, which will help to prevent against these acute diseases which come seasonally, say dengue, H1N1 and such diseases. So when we do this on a regular basis, we will be having protection against these kind of infectious diseases. Am I correct? Cyanidon, right? English name? Garika. Bold letters. Okay, I will, whoever tells me the local name, I will write that. So first is Garika, the grass. Durva. It is a grass. I think the botanical name will be Cyanidon. Next we have Tulsi. Everyone is aware of that. Next we have Tinospora or Amritavalli in Sanskrit also. Bigger. Bilva is called locally? Bill. So ideally 1 week of each. Kashayams we suggest early morning, empty stomach, continuously 1 week, one kind of kashayam. But if you are in a hurry, say the season has already come where many people are getting the flu or many people are getting chikungunya, many people are getting dengue, then you can run through the series with 3 days of each if you are in a hurry. Yeah, and we go in the order of smallest to the biggest. Guava is not in this series. Okay, so especially for children, when we send them to school, we are afraid because any other kid has the flu, cough, fever, our child might get the flu or the fever. So we are scared to send these children to school. Immunity has become a big problem. So when you go through this once in 6 months, once in a year, their immunity is taken care of. You will not require the frequent vaccinations which are given. So how does this boost the immunity is, these have different kind of, they present different kind of antigens to the body. so that our body produces the antibodies, and when we have different ready with us, we are ready to fight the different kinds of infections which we are prone to. Okay.
So one of my colleague, she had a small baby. So I think every month she goes for a doctor for booster shot. Is it required or is it not required?
So up to the age where the child is having the mother's milk, 6 months, the immunity is derived from the mother's milk. So as long as the mother is feeding the child well, then if the mother takes these kashayams, it is sufficient. We will not be giving it to the baby. Up to the age of 1 year at least, it is not required. After that, we can start with 1/4 tumbler after the age of 1 year.
But doctor says they have given the whole plan.
Vaccination plan, yes.
Vaccination plan. So
Yes.
what about that?
Yeah, that for the patients who come to our clinic, we completely ask them to avoid. I personally have not taken any vaccinations, so that is a different topic altogether. Along with this, we also have a few homeopathic preventive medicines which we use. So in general, I cannot say about vaccination without them being my patient. I cannot comment about it. But in general, the whole concept of vaccination again is a debatable topic. Okay. So this was about the immunity series. Another small 2 minutes topic which we wanted to discuss yesterday, someone asked about how to improve the mother's milk. So we know that mother's milk is really good for the baby, but of late mother getting good quality and quantity of milk to feed the baby itself has become a problem. So what can be done to improve the mother's milk? First thing is bajra. Bajra millet is pearl millet, is very good and improves the quality and quantity of milk for a lactating mother. So including this in the diet. And one more thing which we have not mentioned about yet, if there is any one situation or condition for a person to avoid any particular one of the 5 siridhanya, it is during lactation. Mothers have to avoid foxtail millet only, just that one millet. The other 4 are fine. Foxtail millet has a tendency to reduce breast milk. That's why we ask them to avoid it for the period of lactation. However, in pregnancy, foxtail will be the best millet. It provides complete nutrition and is good for the growth of the baby. Okay. So during lactation, you can remove foxtail and put bajra in its place. It is going to increase the milk. Other things are, of course, I think known practices in different families. Methi leaves increase milk. Dill weed. Any local name for dill weed? Okay, I think everyone is aware of it. So this also helps to increase milk. Garlic improves milk. Hing improves milk. So on a regular basis, day-to-day basis, if you are culturally a family which uses garlic on a regular basis, then hing will act as a medicinal value for you to improve the milk. If you are using hing in your regular preparations on a day-to-day basis, it will not act medicinally, and then you will need to use garlic as a medicinal to improve the milk. So this is present in our traditional knowledge which has been given from generation to generation. Also castor seeds. So we extract castor oil which we apply for our hair. That seeds, the inner seed, you need to remove the outer black layer, and the inner part of it, the white color seed, is very good to improve the milk. 4 to 5 seeds consumed once in 2 to 3 days is sufficient to improve the quality and quantity of milk. This will be like a last resort when all this is done and yet the mother is not able to give milk properly. This can be done. Okay. These are ways to improve the milk. It is a very sad situation that as soon as the mothers go and say the milk has reduced, we have ready powdered milk available, waiting, ready to be marketed, and they say just take it. Once you start on that, the baby will refuse even if the amount is less, even if the mother tries to feed how much ever is present, the baby starts refusing that because that is sweeter than the mother's milk. So the baby gets the taste of sweet milk, it will start refusing the breast milk, and all the immunity, all the goodness of the mother's milk is being lost. And that is one of another major reasons why children's immunity levels are falling. Mothers are in a hurry to get back to work, they do not want to feed their babies. That is another sad story. By 3 months their maternity leave is over, they just want to leave the baby somewhere and get back to work. They don't concentrate or give enough importance to the process of breastfeeding the baby. Okay, so this is to improve the milk when the milk is reducing. I think we'll head to the nursery now. Yeah, we'll have kashayam and then leave.